The Buffalo Sabres are on a three-game winning streak and fighting to get back into the playoff hunt in the Atlantic Division. Joe DiBiase of Locked On Sabres joins us to talk about that and all things Buffalo Sabres next on the Locked On NHL podcast.
You're Locked On NHL, your daily podcast on the National Hockey League. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
And welcome back to the Locked On NHL podcast. Gil Martin, so glad you could join us today. And thank you for making Locked On NHL your first listen every day. We are free and available on all platforms. It's my pleasure to welcome back a familiar face and voice to Locked On NHL listeners, the host of Locked On Sabres, Joe DiBiase. And Joe, 3 wins in a row. It's got to feel good in Buffalo heading into the holiday weekend.
It's a fun time. Both sports teams here. I mean, how long has it been since both teams were fun to watch? A while, by the way, is the answer to that question. 3-game win streak against a couple of good teams in LA and Colorado. I know the Avalanche haven't been, the hottest team in the league with McKinnon out. Coyotes, a little bit of a doormat for sure around the league, but 3-game win streak, 2 games out west. And they need every win they could get to climb back in this race. So it's a fun time, I think, for Sabre fans, especially when, individually, a lot of these young guys are really stepping up.
No question about that. And what's been the difference over these last 3 games?
Honestly, it's been goaltending. I mean, they've been scoring all year. That hasn't been a problem. In fact, I'll double check real quick because I know this was true going into the weekend. Yeah, they still are number 1 in the NHL in goals scored this season. But their problem has been goaltending. I mean, you should know, right? Everyone knows they're not in a playoff spot. When you're number 1 in the league in goals and not in a playoff spot, you don't even really have to watch the games to kind of figure out what's going on there. They're not getting saves. And their blue line was banged up earlier in the year, so that hurt too. But they're healthier on the blue line. Owen Power now out, so we'll hope that he comes back, and that remains to be true, that they're getting healthier. But they are healthier on the blue line the last month or so. And the last 3 games, it really is the goaltending. Craig Anderson's given them 2 very strong performances, including his first shutout of the season against the Kings. In a game, by the way, where the Kings dominated the Sabres for 40 minutes. They end up winning that game 6-0 because they could flip a switch like that and score 6 goals in 1 period. They've done it twice in the last week and a half. So they did that in the third, and you might look at 6-0 and think, well, Sabres dominated them. That's not the case. They dominated them in the third. First 40 minutes, Craig Anderson kept them in it. Then Ukko-Pekka Luukkonen gave them a very strong performance in Colorado. Anderson back at it in Arizona. So in this 3-game window, undoubtedly, goaltending has been the thing that has saved them because they already were scoring going into that stretch.
How big of a concern is the backup goaltending right now? Because Anderson's numbers are not bad.
No, they're not. No, they're not at all. And that's actually what's kind of amazing is he came back on a 1-year deal when I think a lot of people thought he was going to retire. And the thought was, okay, gives them a little bit of a cushion in case Ukko-Pekka Luukkonen is not ready to return or to play in the NHL just yet. He is still very young. They signed Eric Comrie away from the Winnipeg Jets to give him a crack at a starting job in the NHL. And I think the hope was he would take that by the horns and run with it. But he wasn't. Then he got hurt. And suddenly more got pressed upon Anderson to not be the backup, but to be more of like the 1A, the 1B, with a kid in Ukko-Pekka Luukkonen that if you saw him in training camp, preseason, and early in the year, even in the AHL, you didn't really see a sign yet that he was ready to take that jump. And he has been struggling in a big way. So I would say Anderson has been giving them exactly what they've hoped for, but the problem was he was supposed to be the backup, not the guy you were relying upon. And Comrie has been a dud as a signing so far, and Luukkonen hasn't looked ready. So it's a league where you really need 2 competent goaltenders. They've got 1 competent guy. It's not like you can't ask Anderson to be a Vezina winner and carry you playing 60 games. So, yeah, the goaltending depth has certainly been a problem from Luukkonen and Comrie.
One player who has carried this team all year is obviously Tage Thompson. 25 goals, 49 points in 31 games. What has made him so special on this team this year?
It is. I mean, I don't even know how to explain it anymore. It is one of the most dumbfounding developments in sports that I have ever seen. And I'm living in a city where Josh Allen happened. Like
Right.
Josh Allen went from, inaccurate, kind of everyone thought he was a terrible quarterback in the first year or two. And then, he's just, the best or second best quarterback in football. I'm from that city. And Thompson might come over top of that because we were at nowhere. No, the Sabres were nowhere with Tage Thompson. He was in the minors. He had, I forget the numbers off the top of my head, but 28 points in over 100 games played. I mean, he was the joke when anyone would ever bring the Ryan O'Reilly trade with the St. Louis Blues. So the fact that he was at 0 and he is now he's competing with Connor McDavid in the scoring race. I mean, it is unbelievable. I have not seen anything like it ever. And going back to last year, a lot of the credit goes to Don Granato for being willing to experiment with him at the center position, which he had not done since a very low level of minor hockey, even before college. So Granato deserves credit on that front, but Thompson deserves a lot of credit too. I mean, he stepped his game up. Last year was a breakout. He really was just a goal scorer last year. This year, yes, the scoring has gone up. Scored 38 last year. He's on pace for over 60 this season. But the playmaking is there as well. He is driving play. He has all the confidence in the world. He now looks like a player that knows he is 4 inches taller than anybody else on the ice at 6'7". He knows he is as fast as anybody on the ice. He knows his hands are as good as anybody on the ice. And he can shoot the puck 100 miles per hour. So his full rounded offensive game is really coming into the picture now. And the playmaking is a big part of that too, because even though we're focused on the goals, guy had 30 assists last year as a number one center. He's already at 24. So Thompson's all around offensive game has just been a treat to watch. And you would need a much more much more educated eye, I think, than me to explain what's happening, because it's hard to explain what's happening with him.
But Sabre fans will take it, no question about that. Yeah. How concerned are you about the blue line? I mean, we touched on goaltending and backup goaltending, but how good is the team defense in front of him right now?
It's a good question. There are bright spots, of course. Rasmus Dahlin, I mean, he has hit that stride that they were hoping for. He is now, by the way, at our partners at BetOnline, he is the second favorite to win the Norris Trophy, behind Cale Makar. He has had a dynamite season. He has become everything Sabre fans dreamed of when they won the lottery 4 years ago. And Matthias Samuelsson has also developed into a legit top pairing defenseman. If you look at a lot of his possession numbers, a lot of his shot share numbers, every time he's on the ice, the Sabres are dominating the puck. They're dominating possession. He is one of the smoothest defensemen I've ever seen in his own end. He's never going to get fanfare. He might never score 20 points in the NHL, because in the offensive zone, there's just not a lot happening. But the defensive zone and the neutral zone, he is so smooth and so good. So you've got two pillars that you can rely upon in your top pair. And then even is he 20 now? I think Owen Power maybe just turned 20. He was 19.
Yeah.
You do now have a rookie that is carrying their second pair, no matter who you put on it. They had Cale Clegg, who not a lot of hockey fans are familiar with, kind of an up and down AHL, NHL guy, formerly with the Kings. He's been playing in Rochester in the AHL. He's been called up to Buffalo this year, but he's a call-up guy. And he got put with Owen Power for like 3 weeks, and that pair just dominated because Power, he's kind of like Samuelsson, but with a little bit more in the offensive zone. He is carrying whoever's on that second pair. So they've got two pairs they could turn to that are really solid. They get run over every time their third pair is on the ice, no matter who it is. So they have got 3 foundational defensemen that I think are going to be a huge part of the Sabres' success in the future. But beyond those 3, it gets desperate quick. You're at call-up guys. You're at, old veterans that can't really hang anymore. It's 3 guys, and then you're hoping and praying for the most part on their blue line.
Well, that'll be the challenge going forward for the Sabres. Joe, why don't you tell our viewers and our listeners where they could find the podcast and where they could find you on social media?
Sure thing. So check out the Locked On Sabres podcast wherever you could be listening to this podcast. And we're also available on our YouTube channel where you can watch the show. Check us out on Twitter at Locked On Sabres for the podcast account. We're always trying to put up some fun polls and whatnot. And you can follow me on Twitter at Sneaky Joe Sports if you can deal with some Bills homerism along the way as well.
Well, I hope most Sabres fans can do just that. Joe, always a pleasure. Thanks for joining us today.
Anytime. Thanks, Gil.
Today's episode is brought to you by your friends at Athletic Greens. Our next partner has a product I literally use every day. I started taking AG1 because I'm not a great pill taker, and I didn't want to have to take 5, 6, 8 pills every day in order to maintain a healthy lifestyle. So what is this stuff? Well, with one delicious scoop of AG1, you're absorbing 75 high-quality vitamins, minerals, whole food source superfoods, probiotics, and adaptogens to help you start your day right. This special blend of ingredients supports your gut health, your nervous system, your immune system, your energy, recovery, focus, and aging. All these things. And it's lifestyle friendly, whether you eat keto, paleo, vegan, dairy-free, or gluten-free. It contains less than 1 gram of sugar, no GMOs, no nasty chemicals or artificial anything, while still tasting good. Right now, it's time to reclaim your health and arm your immune system with convenient daily nutrition. It's just 1 scoop in a cup of water every day, and that's it. No need for a million different pills and supplements to look out for your health. To make it easy, Athletic Greens is going to give you a free 1-year supply of immune-supporting vitamin D and 5 free travel packs with your first purchase. All you have to do is visit athleticgreens.com/NHL Network. Again, that's athleticgreens.com/NHL Network to take ownership over your health and pick up the ultimate daily nutritional insurance.